Hello, welcome to a new edition of the Right Wing Populist Podcast. I am the Right Wing Populist. So today we're going to talk about Trump threatening to bomb Mexico. Uh, it's you almost have to laugh. The whole thing is sort of ridiculous. We're going to bomb Mexico, folks. That's great. We're going to bomb a trading partner, someone that Trump made a trade deal back in his first term, the USMCA, I believe. He did that with Mexico and Canada. Well, we're going to start doing land bombings, it seems like, at least according to Trump. So let's get into that. But before we do, I need you to do something for me, folks. It's very simple. It's very simplistic, very easy. Even a child could do it. Even a Democrat could do it. That's how easy it is. I need you to subscribe, whether it's on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you're listening to this podcast. Please subscribe. And if you are listening on YouTube, like and comment. It helps a great deal with the algorithm. I appreciate it so much, folks. So please do it. But the support's been great the last couple of weeks. So let's keep it going. So Trump did an interview recently with the dumb one, as I call him, Sean Hannity, terrible guy. Trump did an interview with Sean Hannity, and the reason, just for the record, in case some people listening to this podcast likes Sean Hannity, the reason why I don't like Sean Hannity is because he's way too much of a partisan. Whatever is good for the Republican Party, he'll back. It's just, and whatever the Republican Party does, he'll defend. It's so intellectually boring. It's lazy, uninteresting. That's why I'm not a fan of Sean Hannity. I have nothing against him as a person. He's probably a great guy. I probably agree with him on a majority of issues. Maybe not a super majority, but it's definitely a majority of issues. I don't have a big problem with Sean Hannity, but he's just so boring. It's just like you always know what he's going to say. He's going to defend the Republican Party no matter what. It's very boring. So I'm not a fan of his, so that's why I say that. But he interviewed Trump, and they were talking about Venezuela, and then the topic of drugs from other countries came up, and Trump basically made it pretty clear that he's looking to strike Mexico. So I'm going to play you the clip, and then I'm going to discuss why I'm a little bit apprehensive to what Trump is saying here.
We've knocked out 97% of the drugs coming in by water. And we are going to start now hitting land with regard to the cartels. The cartels are running Mexico. It's very, very sad to watch and see what's happened to that country. But the cartels are running, and they're killing 250, 300,000 people in our country every single year. The drugs, it's horrible. It's devastated families. You lose a child or a parent. I mean, parents are dying, too, with drugs. So we've done a really good job. We're knocking it down. The numbers are really getting to be, they're always going to be too high if you have one person, but they're going down just like the border. The border was a total mess for years. I did it the first time very quickly, and this time I did it even better because this was a bigger mess. This was a border like no other probably in the history of the world. There's never been a border like that when anybody could just walk into your country.
The border's ostensibly really closed now.
Closed. You can't come in, and nobody comes.
So a couple things. Number one, again, Mexico is one of our top trading partners. Trump literally got rid of NAFTA and then created a new trade deal. I believe it's called the USMCA. It was a trade deal that was done with Mexico and Canada. And supposedly it's better than NAFTA. I'm not going to get into whether or not it's actually much better than NAFTA, but Mexico is one of our top trading partners. So threatening to do land strikes in Mexico just based off that would be very provocative without any coordination with Mexico. If you're going to coordinate with Mexico, that's different. Then that, fine. It's fair enough. But if you're going to start striking Mexico without coordinating with them, that's a disaster waiting to happen. And the president of Mexico, I want to be accurate, the president of Mexico, she's already made it clear that she doesn't support this, doesn't support that. And the other thing is, he talks about how we have to deal with the land, the border, the land. We've already taken out the sea because of what we did in Venezuela, according to Trump. But we have to care about the land. Well, I thought that we secured the border. Even at the clip, Sean Hannity says, "Yeah, you've secured the border. You've done a great job," which is true. The border is secure. But if the border is as secure as we think it is, and as Trump claims it is, why are we so concerned about the land then? If the border is shut down, why are we concerned about the cartels pushing drugs through that border? The border. Like what? How are the cartels getting the drugs in if the border is secure? That doesn't make sense. It's sort of incoherent if you think about it. And the other thing is we would need, and look, you need congressional approval if you're going to start striking countries. I'm sorry. The Constitution is very clear. And there are some laws passed by Congress that have essentially said the president can act without congressional approval if it's purely defensive, essentially. But striking the cartels in Mexico that's not a defensive move. It's just not. You can try to say it is because it's about, you can't just say drugs and cartels and all of a sudden the Constitution doesn't matter anymore. That's not how this works. So you would need congressional approval to do that. We haven't gotten congressional approval to do that. Now, look, it's not to say that these cartels are good or that we obviously want to stop drugs from coming into the border. No one who's reasonable is against that. Of course, everyone wants no drugs to be, unless I guess you're a drug addict. Let me be clear. Unless you're a drug addict, no one wants these drugs going to the. If you're a heroin addict, or if you're stuck on fentanyl, I guess you do want those drugs going through the border. But people who aren't on the stuff, no one wants drugs pouring through our southern border. No one wants that, folks. So I am totally with Trump on wanting to prevent drugs from getting into the country because I'm not a druggie, unlike Jack Smith. But striking Mexico without one congressional approval, without coordinating with Mexico, and given the fact that we're already involved in Venezuela, it looks like Trump's going to get us involved with Iran very quickly based on all the protests that are happening in Iran. Why are we getting so involved with all these countries? Well, I mean, why? This is not what we voted for, folks. Look, I love Trump. I'm overall supportive of what he's done so far with his presidency. But I did not vote for Trump because he was going to start bombing Mexico, doing regime change in Venezuela, continuing the wars in Syria, being hostile toward Iran, striking Iran's nuclear facilities, continuing the war in Yemen. This is not what I voted for. And in fact, Trump explicitly ran against this stuff. And CNN did a compilation. I'm going to play it. I played it on a podcast earlier this week, but I'm going to play it again just to demonstrate why, I'm a little bit apprehensive with all this foreign meddling. Just think of it from a political point of view. The economy is relatively fragile. Trump's made some improvements with the economy, but he's also a lot of progress still needs to be done. The job numbers have been pretty weak. We've had some good numbers for GDP, household, sort of housing net worths have increased under Trump. There's been some benefits. Stock market's been pretty strong. There's some good stuff, but there's also been some very weak stuff. Like I said, we're continuing seeing job growth decline year after year. It started before Trump, so I'm not blaming him for the weak job numbers, but he hasn't made it much better. That's just a fact. So, if you look at the polls, one of the reasons why Trump's approval rating is much lower than it was when he got back into office is because people don't feel like he's as concerned with the economy as he should be. That's why Republicans got shellacked in this past November in the off-year elections in New Jersey, Virginia, all those states. I mean, most of them were Democrat-leaning states, but even in local elections in non-Democrat states, Democrats did very well. Republicans did poorly. So that's a problem. So when, you have especially young people, millennials, Gen Z, when you have those people who shifted toward Trump in great numbers in the past presidential election, but now they're starting to shift away toward Trump because the economy is not good for them. Even people who are graduating 4-year degrees are struggling to find good work right now. The job market is very rough. So they're experiencing this, and then they see President Trump being so concerned about Venezuela, with Iran, with Mexico, with Colombia, with Cuba. It's like, what the fuck? This is not America first. This is not what we voted for. Again, you can still support Trump, but you'd still find to criticize him when he seems more concerned about the affairs of other countries and not necessarily affairs of the United States. And he explicitly ran against being concerned about other countries. And this is a CNN clip. I'm going to play it now, sort of showing how Trump's sort of been waffling on how he views regime change or as you could say, just say foreign intervention. So here's the clip.
Colombia is very sick too, run by a sick man who likes making cocaine and selling it to the United States. And he's not going to be doing it very long, let me tell you. We believe that the job of the United States military is not to wage endless regime change wars. You have to do something with Mexico. Mexico has to get their act together because they're pouring through Mexico, and we're going to have to do something. The cartels are running Mexico. Whether you like it or not, it's not nice to say, but the cartels are running Mexico. We will stop racing to topple foreign and you understand this. Foreign regimes that we know nothing about, that we shouldn't be involved with.
There's been protesters killed in Iran.
If they start killing people like they have in the past, I think they're going to get hit very hard by the United States. Regime change in Iraq, regime change in Libya, regime change in Syria, and every other globalist disaster for half a century. We need Greenland from the standpoint of national security, and Denmark is not going to be able to do it. We're getting out of the nation-building business and instead focusing on creating stability in the world. The American dominance in the Western Hemisphere will never be questioned again. Stupid foreign wars in countries that you've never heard of. This Tuesday is your chance to stand up and declare that you're not going to take it anymore.
So again, you can still be supportive of what Trump has done in Venezuela. You can even be supportive of the idea of striking cartels in Mexico. Again, I understand why people would like to, why people would support that concept. I get it. But again, with the economy still being relatively fragile, I just don't, forget about the actual policy ramifications and even the legal arguments about whether or not it is constitutional to do some of the things Trump is talking about. The political ramifications are just not good for Republicans. And to give an example of this, let's go back to the Bush administration, W. Bush. His presidency was effectively destroyed by getting involved in all these ridiculous wars. You look at Afghanistan, you look at Iraq. These wars were disasters. Okay, there were no weapons of mass destruction. He got entangled with these conflicts. And then what happened was when the economy started going poorly, Bush's approval rating tanked in his second term because people were thinking, well, the economy's not doing very well. We're stuck in these ridiculous Middle Eastern wars. The president is more concerned about the Middle East than he is the United States. And obviously when the Great Recession really started to come into effect, then, his administration really got fucked. And that's why Obama won the 2008 election in what's really that was a modern day landslide. I mean, he got over 360 electoral votes. He won by I think 8 points or around 8 points. It was a modern day landslide. And it's because the public thought the Bush administration was far too focused on foreign affairs than they were domestic affairs. And it really hurt the Republican brand for years. That's why Mitt Romney, who should have been able to beat Obama's first term was not a successful term. The economy had not recovered. People were not happy with Obamacare. Obama, frankly, continued some of these foreign entanglements. I mean, he did regime change in Libya in 2011. That was a disaster. But because he at least pretended like he wasn't a warmonger and he at least tried to come across like he cared for working people, he was still able to beat Mitt Romney handily. Wasn't as much of a beatdown as what he did to McCain, but he still beat Romney pretty handily in 2012 because the Republican brand was so awful because of Bush and these foreign conflicts. And again, Obama's first term was not successful. He was underwater politically. He had the lowest approval rating in the modern era for a president to get reelected. I mean, he was not seen favorably at the time. He ended his second term with higher approval ratings, but at the end of his first term, people were not happy. But they were so disgusted with how the Bush administration ended, they were going to give Obama another 4 years because whether you agree with this or not, they viewed his first term, whether or not they liked it, they thought it was still better than Bush's 2 terms in office. So I say all this just to make it clear why, from a political standpoint, just from the politics, whether you agree with the policy or not, from a political standpoint, I'm afraid that the public thinks Trump is too concerned with the affairs of foreign countries and not concerned enough with the domestic affairs. And I think that's why his approval rating's in the low 40s right now. Now, again, I'm not. There has been some improvements Trump has made with the economy. There are bright spots. I don't want to act like it's all doom and gloom. Trump's done a good job overall as president. He has secured the border, even though he's acting as if all these drugs are still coming in. But the reality is, he has secured the border. Border crossings are like non-existent. It's great. I support ICE. I know we've had this tragic shooting that happened in Minnesota, but it's one bad apple. And frankly, and maybe I shouldn't say this, but the woman was acting very reckless. She should not have done what she did. I think the ICE agent overreacted, and I don't, I'm fine with him being prosecuted, but that's just one bad apple. The ICE agent, and the lady put herself in a bad situation. I'm not trying to blame the victim, but I just think nuance is important here. But I support ICE overall. I support the deportations. I support securing the border. I supported Doge going into these agencies looking for the fraud and abuse. I've supported the Gaza deal. That is a foreign affairs thing that Trump has done. I support Trump trying to get the Russia-Ukraine war ended. I support the big beautiful bill extending the tax cuts, getting rid of certain regulations. Trump's done a good job overall as president. I want to be very clear about this, but you don't want to get entangled with these foreign conflicts just because from a political point of view, that tends to be poison for whatever the administration is that's doing that. So that's just my two thoughts about it. That's just my warning to the administration. If you like Trump, totally get it. I love Trump too. On a personal level, I adore Trump. Anyone who knows me in real life knows that I love Trump. I wear the hats and everything. It's kind of cute. But you want to be careful, especially if you're a Republican administration, about looking like you care too much about meddling with foreign affairs and not trying to fix the domestic affairs. So anyway, that's just sort of my 2 cents. All right, folks, that's it for today. We should be back tomorrow. Again, please subscribe, whether on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify. If you are listening on YouTube, like and comment. I would really appreciate it. We should be back tomorrow, folks. I hope you have a great Sunday. Enjoy all these NFL playoff games. They've been great so far. Let's keep it going. Bye-bye.